My wife Emily just won Salesperson of the Year again, and I'm sitting here wondering if they give awards for being married to a complete stranger. David, did you hear me? Emily's voice cuts through my thoughts like a knife through butter, sharp, precise, and leaving everything in pieces. I said the award ceremony is next Friday. Black tie. Try not to embarrass me this time. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I look up from my laptop, where I've been reviewing quarterly reports for my investment firm. The irony isn't lost on me that while she's celebrating selling other people's dreams, I'm busy buying and selling entire companies. But Emily has never been one for irony or listening. Congratulations, I say, meaning it less than she deserves. What's this, the third year running? Fourth. She doesn't look up from her phone, fingers flying across the screen, probably texting her work friends about how her husband doesn't even keep track of her achievements. JD says I'm breaking company records. JD John Davidson, her boss at Davidson and Associates Real Estate. 45, divorced, drives a Porsche that screams midlife crisis louder than a teenager's stereo. I've met him exactly 3 times, and each time he's managed to work his net worth into casual conversation. That's great, Em. Really. I close my laptop and lean back in my chair. Our home office overlooks Lake Michigan, and the view usually calms me. Tonight, it just reminds me how far I've drifted from shore. Emily finally looks up, and I catch something in her expression. Guilt, maybe, or just irritation that I'm not sufficiently impressed. The whole team is going out to celebrate after the ceremony. Don't wait up. Don't wait up. When did that become her standard closing line? I used to wait up anyway, back when I thought she was actually with her team. Now I just take an Ambien and pretend I don't hear her stumble in at 2 a.m., reeking of expensive cologne that definitely isn't mine. I'll try to contain my excitement. I mutter. What was that? Nothing, just thinking about how proud I am. She studies my face for a moment, looking for sarcasm. Emily's gotten good at detecting it, probably because I've gotten good at delivering it. Marriage. The ultimate training ground for passive-aggressive warfare. You know, David, some wives would appreciate having a husband who supports their career. And some husbands would appreciate having a wife who comes home before the bars close. The words hang in the air between us like smoke from a house fire. You can see the damage, but it's too late to stop it from spreading. Emily's face hardens. I work hard for my success. Not everyone can just sit around managing other people's money all day. There it is, the casual dismissal of everything I've built. Miller Capital Management currently oversees $400 million in assets. I've turned struggling companies into success stories, created jobs for thousands of people, and built a portfolio that most fund managers would kill for. But to Emily, I just sit around. You're right, I say, standing up. Some of us have to actually create value instead of just moving it around. At least I work with real people instead of hiding behind spreadsheets all day. Real people. Like JD, I suppose. I wonder if she considers their relationship real, or if it's just another transaction in her increasingly complicated portfolio. I head for the kitchen, needing distance and maybe something stronger than coffee. Our house is one of those modern minimalist designs that Emily insisted on, all clean lines and empty spaces. It's beautiful in the way a museum is beautiful, impressive to visitors, but you wouldn't want to live there. The refrigerator hums quietly, stocked with organic everything and overpriced water that supposedly comes from some pristine glacier. Emily's latest health kick. Last month it was keto. Before that, intermittent fasting. She approaches wellness trends with the same intensity she brings to sales quotas. Total commitment until something shinier comes along. I pour myself 3 fingers of bourbon and lean against the granite counter. Through the kitchen window, I can see our neighbor walking his dog. Jim retired from Boeing last year, and spends his days tinkering in his garage and walking that ancient golden retriever. He waves when he sees me, and I wave back. Simple. Uncomplicated. When did my life become so complicated? "I'm going to bed," Emily announces from the doorway. She's changed into her silk pajamas, the expensive set I bought her for Christmas. "Try not to stay up all night brooding." "I don't brood, I contemplate." Same thing, different vocabulary. She's not wrong. Emily might be many things, but stupid isn't one of them. She graduated summa cum laude from Northwestern, speaks 3 languages, and can read people like quarterly earnings reports, which makes her recent behavior all the more puzzling. Smart people don't usually leave such obvious clues when they're cheating, unless they want to be caught. The thought hits me like ice water. What if this isn't about JD at all? What if Emily's affair is just the opening move in a larger game? I take another sip of bourbon and consider the possibilities. We've been married 12 years. In Illinois, that means she's entitled to half of everything in a divorce. But Emily's always been ambitious, and half has never been enough for her. My phone buzzes with a text from my old friend Marcus. "Drinks tomorrow? Got something interesting to tell you." Marcus Chen runs a private investigation firm downtown. We went to college together, and he's helped me with due diligence on several acquisitions over the years. Marcus doesn't do social calls. I text back, "Sure, usual place, 6 p.m. Upstairs, I can hear Emily talking on the phone. Her voice is low, intimate. She's laughing at something, really laughing, not the polite chuckle she reserves for my jokes these days. I finish my bourbon and rinse the glass. Tomorrow, I'll find out what Marcus knows. Tonight, I'll lie next to my wife and pretend I don't notice that she's texting someone under the covers, her face lit up by the phone's glow like a child with a secret. The thing about secrets is that they're only powerful when one person holds them. Once they're shared, they become weapons. And I've always been better at warfare than Emily realizes. She just doesn't know it yet. Marcus is already waiting when I arrive at O'Malley's, our usual dive bar 3 blocks from his office. He's nursing a beer and scrolling through his phone with the focused intensity of someone reading bad news. When he sees me, he slides a manila envelope across the scarred wooden table. "You're not going to like this," he says without preamble. I order a whiskey neat and eye the envelope like it might explode. "How bad?" "Scale of 1 to 10, about a 15. Marcus has never been one for sugarcoating. It's what makes him good at his job and terrible at bedside manner. I met him freshman year at University of Chicago when he was studying criminology, and I was grinding through business courses. Even then, he had this ability to see through people's bullshit, like X-ray vision. "Just tell me. Your wife's been seeing JD for 8 months. Hotel receipts, restaurant charges, weekend trips to Wisconsin that weren't girls' weekends." He pauses to take a long pull from his beer. But that's not the interesting part. I open the envelope. Photos spill out. Emily and JD holding hands outside the Palmer house, kissing in his car, entering a downtown apartment building together. The images are crystal clear, professionally shot. Marcus doesn't mess around. What's the interesting part? Davidson and Associates is going public next year. JD's been positioning himself as the golden boy, and your wife's sales numbers are a big part of his pitch to investors. Marcus leans forward. Here's where it gets fun. Emily's been feeding him inside information about your investment strategies, client lists, acquisition targets, portfolio compositions. The whiskey turns to acid in my throat. That's insider trading. Gets better. JD's been using that information to front-run your deals. Remember the Hartwell Industries acquisition you were working on last month? I nod. Hartwell was a small manufacturing company I'd identified as undervalued. Perfect for a leveraged buyout, solid fundamentals, great management team. The deal fell through when another buyer swooped in with a higher offer. That was JD. He used Emily's intel to beat your bid by exactly 2%. The room suddenly feels too small. I loosen my tie and try to process what Marcus is telling me. My wife isn't just cheating on me, she's actively sabotaging my business. How long have you known? Started digging 3 weeks ago when you mentioned Emily's late nights. The financial stuff came to light yesterday. Marcus slides another document across the table. JD's been bragging about his inside source to potential investors, called Emily his secret weapon. I scan the document, a transcript of a recorded conversation between JD and someone named Peterson from Goldman Sachs. JD's voice comes through clearly. Let's just say I have access to information that gives us a significant competitive advantage. My top salesperson has connections throughout the Chicago investment community. Jesus Christ. There's more. Emily's been telling people at her office that you're planning to retire early. Apparently, she's been positioning herself as the real financial mind in the relationship. The betrayal cuts deeper than I expected. Infidelity is one thing. Marriages fail, people grow apart, hormones are stupid. But this is different. This is calculated, systematic destruction of everything I've built. What's your recommendation? Marcus finishes his beer and signals for another. Professionally? Document everything, file for divorce, report the insider trading to the SEC, and let the lawyers sort it out. And personally? Personally? He grins, and for a moment I see the college kid who once convinced me to sneak into the dean's office to change our grades. Personally, I think Emily and JD need to learn that actions have consequences. I spend the next hour reviewing Marcus's evidence. The paper trail is damning. Credit card receipts, phone records, even a recording of Emily and JD discussing my boring investment philosophy at some restaurant downtown. David's so predictable. Emily's voice crackles through Marcus's phone speaker. He thinks he's this brilliant strategist, but he's just lucky. Anyone can make money in this market. JD's laughter follows. Good thing you're there to keep him grounded. Speaking of which, what's he looking at for next quarter? Some tech startup in Austin, CloudSync or something. He thinks it's the next big thing. CloudSync. I'd mentioned that company exactly once in confidence after receiving their pitch deck. Emily had been half asleep when I told her about it, or so I thought. You recorded this? Restaurant had security cameras. Audio's a little fuzzy, but you can make out most of it. Marcus pockets his phone. Want me to keep digging? Yeah, I want to know everything. Financial records, communication logs, travel itineraries. If Emily's playing games, I need to know the rules. This is going to get expensive. I drop $500 bills on the table. Send me a bill for the rest. The drive home takes me through downtown Chicago, past the gleaming towers where people like JD make their living selling dreams to desperate buyers. The city looks different tonight. Sharper, more predatory. Or maybe that's just my mood. Emily's car is in the driveway when I pull in, but the house is dark except for the glow from our bedroom window. She's probably on the phone with JD, planning their next move in whatever game they're playing. I pour myself another bourbon and sit in my home office, staring at Marcus's photos spread across my desk. In one, Emily's laughing at something JD said. She looks genuinely happy, happier than I've seen her in months. The irony is almost funny. She's destroying our marriage to be with a man who's using her for inside information, and she thinks she's the one playing him. My computer chimes with an email notification. CloudSync's CEO, responding to my preliminary offer. He's interested, wants to set up a meeting next week. The company could be worth $50 million in 5 years if they execute properly. I delete the email without responding. If Emily and JD want to play games with my business, they're about to learn that I didn't build a $400 million portfolio by being predictable. They think they know me. Boring David, sitting around managing other people's money. They're about to discover how wrong they are. I open a new browser window and start researching Davidson and Associates. Public filings, employee records, client lists, financial statements. If Emily wants to feed information to JD, I'll make sure she has plenty to share. The question isn't whether I can destroy them both. The question is how much I'm willing to destroy myself in the process. Outside, it starts to rain. The sound against the windows is rhythmic, almost musical, like a countdown. The grand ballroom at the Palmer House is exactly the kind of place Emily loves, all crystal chandeliers and gold leaf, designed to make successful people feel even more successful. I'm wearing my best tuxedo and a smile that feels like it's carved from ice. Emily looks stunning in a black evening gown that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. She's been glowing all week, practically vibrating with excitement about tonight's ceremony. Top salesperson of the year, 4th time running. She keeps mentioning how proud JD is of her achievements. "You clean up nice," she says, adjusting my bow tie with the practiced efficiency of someone who's been married to me for 12 years. "Try to mingle tonight. Some of these people might actually be useful for your business." Useful. Everything's transactional with Emily these days. I wonder if she categorizes our marriage the same way she organizes her client list: active prospects, warm leads, closed deals. I'll do my best to be charming. "Just be yourself." That's usually charming enough. The comment would be sweet if I didn't know she'd been telling JD how boring and predictable I am, but I smile anyway and offer her my arm as we enter the ballroom. The room is packed with Chicago's real estate elite, agents, brokers, developers, and the lawyers who feed off them all. Everyone's drinking champagne and pretending to enjoy conversations about market trends and interest rates. It's like a nature documentary about predators in their natural habitat. JD spots us immediately and glides over with the smooth confidence of someone who's never doubted his own importance. He's wearing a custom tuxedo that probably cost more than my car, and his smile is so white it could guide ships to shore. "David, great to see you again." His handshake is firm, practiced. "And Emily, you look absolutely radiant tonight." Emily practically glows under his attention. "Thank you, JD. I'm so nervous about the speech." "Don't be. You've earned this." He turns to me with what I'm sure he thinks is masculine camaraderie. "You must be incredibly proud of your wife. She's absolutely remarkable." "She certainly is." I keep my voice neutral, friendly. "I understand you've been very supportive of her career." Emily makes it easy. Natural talent like hers is rare in this business. His hand briefly touches Emily's lower back. Possessive, intimate. "We're lucky to have her on the team." "We." Interesting choice of pronouns. "I imagine she's been valuable in many ways," I say. JD's eyes flicker with something, surprise, maybe, or recognition that I might not be as oblivious as he assumed. But the moment passes quickly, replaced by his practiced charm. "Well, I should make the rounds before dinner. David, we should grab lunch sometime. I'd love to pick your brain about the investment world." "I'll bet you would." Emily excuses herself to freshen up, leaving me alone at our table with a glass of champagne I don't want and thoughts that are getting darker by the minute. I watch JD work the room, pressing flesh, sharing jokes, building the network that will make him rich when Davidson and Associates goes public. My phone buzzes with a text from Marcus. "Package delivered to your office. You're going to love it." The package. 3 weeks of investigation distilled into a comprehensive dossier on JD's business practices, personal finances, and romantic history. Marcus found some fascinating details about JD's previous relationships. Apparently, dating the boss has been a pattern for him. David Miller? I look up to see a woman in her 50s approaching our table. She's elegant in the way that money can't buy. Genuine class instead of expensive accessories. "I'm Patricia Hartwell. I believe you were interested in acquiring my late husband's company, Hartwell Industries." The deal JD stole using Emily's inside information. I stand and offer her my hand. "Mrs. Hartwell, I'm sorry for your loss, and I apologize for how that situation developed." "No need to apologize. Business is business." She sits down uninvited, which I appreciate. But I thought you should know that the buyer who outbid you has been asking some very specific questions about your investment strategies. What kind of questions? The kind that suggest he knew more about your offer than he should have. She sips her champagne thoughtfully. My husband always said that information is the most valuable commodity in any deal. I'm starting to like Patricia Hartwell. He sounds like a wise man. He was. He also taught me to recognize when someone's playing games with marked cards. She glances toward JD, who's holding court near the bar. Some people think they're the only ones who know how to cheat. The lights dim and dinner is served, some kind of chicken that tastes like it was prepared by committee. Emily returns to our table flushed with excitement and champagne. She's been making the rounds, accepting congratulations, and basking in the attention. Everyone's being so nice, she whispers. JD says the speech will be broadcast live on the company's social media channels. Live broadcast. Perfect. The award ceremony begins after dessert. JD takes the stage first, welcoming everyone and talking about Davidson and Associates' record-breaking year. He's a natural performer, confident, engaging, completely comfortable being the center of attention. Our success this year has been driven by exceptional talent and dedication, he says, his voice carrying easily through the ballroom. And no one exemplifies those qualities better than our top salesperson for the 4th consecutive year, Emily Miller. The applause is thunderous. Emily rises gracefully and makes her way to the stage, every inch the successful professional. She looks genuinely happy, genuinely proud of what she's accomplished. For a moment, I almost feel guilty about what I'm planning to do. Almost. Emily's acceptance speech is polished, gracious, and completely focused on thanking JD for his mentorship and support. She mentions me exactly once, in passing, as her supportive husband. The audience applauds politely. I couldn't have achieved this without the guidance of an exceptional leader, she continues, smiling directly at JD. Someone who saw my potential and helped me realize it. More applause. JD beams like a proud father, or maybe something else entirely. Success in real estate requires trust, integrity, and the ability to see opportunities that others might miss, Emily says. I've been fortunate to work with people who share those values. Trust. Integrity. The words taste like ashes in my mouth. Emily concludes her speech to a standing ovation. JD joins her on stage for photos, his arm around her waist in a gesture that's just intimate enough to raise eyebrows. The company photographer captures it all for posterity. As Emily returns to our table glowing with triumph, I stand and applaud with everyone else. She deserves recognition for her achievements, even if everything else about tonight is built on lies. Congratulations, I say, kissing her cheek. You were wonderful up there. Thank you. She's practically vibrating with excitement. JD wants to take the team out for drinks after this. You don't mind, do you? Of course she does. The celebration wouldn't be complete without her mentor and lover. Actually, I was hoping we could celebrate together tonight. Just the two of us. Emily's face falls slightly. Oh, well, maybe we can do something tomorrow? Tonight's really about the team. The team. Right. Of course. You should celebrate with the people who matter most to your success. She studies my face, looking for sarcasm again, but I keep my expression neutral, supportive. Just boring, predictable David. You're the best, she says, squeezing my hand. I'll try not to be too late. Don't wait up. The words hang unspoken between us, but we both hear them anyway. As the evening winds down and people begin to leave, I watch Emily and JD coordinate their exit strategies. They're careful not to leave together, but the choreography is obvious to anyone paying attention. Patricia Hartwell appears at my elbow as I'm finishing my coffee. Interesting evening, she observes. Very educational. My husband used to say that the best revenge is massive success. She pauses, considering. but sometimes a more targeted approach is necessary. I hand her my business card. If you're ever interested in discussing business opportunities, I'd welcome the conversation. She pockets the card with a smile that suggests she understands exactly what kind of opportunities I'm talking about. Emily kisses me goodbye, a quick peck on the cheek, and disappears into the crowd with her teammates. JD follows a few minutes later, making a show of saying goodnight to various colleagues before heading for the exit. I wait another 10 minutes, then make my own departure. The valet brings my car around, and I tip him generously. It's going to be a good night for everyone. Well, almost everyone. As I drive home through the empty streets, I think about Emily's speech. Trust, integrity, seeing opportunities that others miss. She's absolutely right about that last part. Tomorrow, she's going to discover just how many opportunities she's been missing. The first sign that something's wrong comes Tuesday morning when Emily's phone starts buzzing at 6 a.m. She's in the shower, so I glance at the screen out of curiosity. 7 missed calls from JD, 3 from her assistant, and a string of text messages that all seem to contain the word urgent. "Em, your phone's going crazy," I call through the bathroom door. "What?" The shower stops running. "Who is it?" "JD. Looks important." She emerges wrapped in a towel, hair dripping, and grabs her phone with the desperation of someone expecting bad news. As she scrolls through the messages, her face goes through several interesting color changes. "Everything okay?" I'm not sure." She's already pulling clothes from her closet. "There's some kind of problem at the office. I need to get in early." Emily's normally meticulous morning routine is abandoned in favor of speed. No makeup, hair pulled back in a messy bun, clothes that don't quite match. She's out the door in 15 minutes, still reading messages on her phone. I pour myself coffee and check the morning news on my tablet. The business section leads with an interesting story. SEC investigates alleged insider trading ring involving Chicago real estate firm. The article is light on details, but mentions Davidson and Associates specifically. My phone rings. Marcus. "You see the news? Just reading it now, your handiwork?" Mine and about 6 months of careful documentation. The SEC moves slowly, but when they move hard. Marcus sounds pleased with himself. JD's going to have a very interesting week. What about Emily? Depends on how cooperative she wants to be. The evidence shows she was feeding information, but she wasn't directly profiting from the trades. If she's smart, she'll distance herself from JD immediately. But Emily's never been good at cutting her losses. She's the type who doubles down when she should fold, who sees every setback as a temporary obstacle rather than a fundamental problem. Keep monitoring the situation. I want to know everything that happens. Already on it. By the way, you might want to check Davidson and Associates' website. They made some interesting announcements this morning. I hang up and navigate to the company's homepage. The lead story is about JD taking a temporary leave of absence to address regulatory concerns. Emily's bio has been quietly removed from the leadership page. My phone buzzes with a text from Emily. "Can't talk now. Major crisis at work. We'll call later." Major crisis. I almost feel sorry for her. Almost. The rest of the morning passes quietly. I review portfolio reports, take calls from clients, and generally maintain the appearance of someone who has no idea his wife's career is imploding. Around noon, my assistant buzzes me. "Mr. Miller? There's a Patricia Hartwell here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's regarding a business opportunity." "Patricia, right on schedule. Send her in." Patricia Hartwell enters my office with the confidence of someone who's been making deals since before I was born. She's dressed impeccably. Navy suit, pearls, shoes that probably cost more than most people's rent. Old money, not new. "Thank you for seeing me without an appointment," she says, settling into the chair across from my desk. "Always happy to discuss business with someone who understands the value of information." She smiles at that. "I've been thinking about our conversation last night," about targeted approaches and missed opportunities. And? I'd like to make you an offer for Hartwell Industries, the legitimate offer you should have won 3 weeks ago. I lean back in my chair. I'm listening. 15% below your original bid. Cash deal, no financing contingencies, close in 30 days. It's a good offer, better than good. Hartwell Industries at that price would be a steal, and Patricia knows it. Why the discount? Call it a penalty for the inconvenience your competitors caused. Her smile turns sharp. I don't like being used as a pawn in other people's games. Neither do I. We spend the next hour working through the details. Patricia is sharp, thorough, and completely ruthless when it comes to protecting her interests. I can see why her husband's company was successful. There's one more thing, she says as we're wrapping up. I may have some information about other companies that might interest you. Firms that have been, shall we say, compromised by recent events. I'm always interested in new opportunities. She hands me a flash drive. JD's been more careless than he realized. Some of his other business relationships might not survive regulatory scrutiny. I pocket the drive. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Wait until you see what's on there. After Patricia leaves, I plug the flash drive into my computer. It contains financial records, email correspondence, and recorded conversations documenting a pattern of insider trading that goes back 3 years. JD's been running a sophisticated operation, using romantic relationships with female employees to gather intelligence on competitors. Emily wasn't his first source. She wasn't even his best source. She was just the most recent. The revelation hits me like a physical blow. Emily didn't betray our marriage for love. She betrayed it for career advancement, not realizing she was being manipulated by someone who'd done the same thing to at least 4 other women. My phone rings. Emily. David? Her voice is shaky, uncertain. Are you busy? I need to talk to someone. What's wrong? Everything. The SEC showed up this morning with a warrant. They seized JD's files, his computer, everything, and they want to interview me tomorrow. About what? I don't know. They wouldn't say. But JD's lawyer told me not to talk to anyone from the company until this gets sorted out. She pauses. David, I think I might be in real trouble. For the first time in months, Emily sounds like the woman I married. Vulnerable, scared, looking to me for support. It would be easy to comfort her, to play the role of the loyal husband standing by his wife during a crisis. But I've seen the evidence. I know exactly what kind of trouble she's in. Where are you now? My car, in the parking lot outside the office. I can't go back in. Security escorted me out this morning. Escorted out. The humiliation must be killing her. Come home. We'll figure this out together. Okay, thank you. I love you, David. She hangs up before I can respond, which is probably for the best. I'm not sure what I would have said. I spend the next hour reviewing Patricia's files and making phone calls. 3 of JD's other victims are willing to cooperate with investigators. 2 of them lost their jobs when their companies discovered the information leaks. 1 of them attempted suicide. Emily arrives home looking like she's aged 5 years in 1 day. Her hair is disheveled, her makeup smeared, and she's clutching her purse like a life preserver. They froze JD's assets, she says without preamble. His accounts, his car, everything, and they're looking into all of his business relationships. Including yours? She nods miserably. My lawyer says I should cooperate fully, tell them everything I know. But David, if you do that, you'll have to admit to the affair. It's not just the affair. She sits down heavily on our couch, looking smaller than I've ever seen her. JD asked me questions about your business, your clients, your investment strategies. I thought he was just making conversation, but now you realize he was using you. I never meant for any of this to happen. I thought he cared about me. The tears start then. Real tears, not the calculated crying she uses to get her way. She's genuinely devastated, genuinely terrified of what's going to happen next. Part of me wants to comfort her. 12 years of marriage doesn't disappear overnight, and seeing her this broken is harder than I expected. But I remember the recording Marcus played for me. Emily's laughter as she called me boring and predictable, her casual dismissal of everything I've built. "What do you want me to do, Em?" "I don't know. Stand by me, I guess. Help me get through this." "The way you stood by me when JD was using your information to sabotage my deals?" She looks up sharply. "What are you talking about?" "Hartwell Industries, CloudSync, 3 other acquisitions that fell through because someone was feeding inside information to my competitors." The color drains from her face. "You know. I know about the affair. I know about the insider trading. I know about the 8 months of lies and betrayal." I keep my voice calm, matter of fact. What I don't know is why. "David, please. Let me explain." "Go ahead. Explain." But she can't. She sits there opening and closing her mouth like a fish out of water, searching for words that don't exist. How do you explain betraying someone who trusted you? How do you justify destroying a marriage for someone who was using you? "I made a mistake," she finally whispers. "A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. This was a choice, multiple choices made over months." "I know. You're right. I'm sorry. Sorry." As if that word could somehow undo the damage, somehow restore the trust she's shattered. "The SEC interview is tomorrow?" She nods. "Then you should probably spend tonight figuring out what you're going to tell them." I stand up and head for my office, leaving her alone with her tears and her regrets. Behind me, I hear her phone buzzing again. Probably JD, looking for comfort from someone who's just as trapped as he is. In my office, I open a bottle of bourbon and pour myself a generous measure. Outside, the sun is setting over Lake Michigan, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. Tomorrow, Emily will sit in a room with federal investigators and tell them everything she knows about JD's operation. She'll admit to the affair, detail the information she shared, and probably destroy what's left of her career in the process. But that's just the beginning. I've spent 3 weeks preparing for this moment, and Emily's cooperation with the SEC is only the first move in a much larger game. She wanted to play with marked cards. Now she's going to learn what happens when someone else is dealing from the bottom of the deck. Emily leaves for her SEC interview at 8 a.m. sharp, dressed in her most conservative suit and carrying a briefcase full of documents her lawyer insisted she bring. She looks like she's heading to her own execution, which isn't far from the truth. "Wish me luck," she says at the door. "You don't need luck. You just need to tell the truth." She flinches at that, probably because the truth is the one thing she's been avoiding for months. After she leaves, I make a phone call to Patricia Hartwell. "It's time." "Are you sure about this, David? Once we start, there's no going back." "I'm sure." "All right then. Let's give Mr. Davidson something to really worry about." The plan we've developed is elegant in its simplicity. While JD is distracted by SEC investigators and frozen assets, Patricia and I are going to systematically dismantle his business empire. We've identified 6 companies that JD has targeted for acquisition using insider information. 5 of them are willing to sell to me instead, at prices that will make their owners rich and leave JD empty-handed. The 6th company is Davidson and Associates itself. JD's temporary leave of absence has created a power vacuum that the board is desperate to fill. The company's stock price has dropped 30% since the SEC investigation became public, and several major clients have already jumped ship. Patricia's connections in Chicago's business community run deep, and she's been making strategic introductions all week. By noon, I have preliminary agreements with 3 board members to support a buyout offer. My phone rings at 1 p.m. Marcus. Emily's interview is over. She was in there for 4 hours. How'd it go? Hard to say. She looked pretty shaken when she came out, but her lawyer seemed satisfied. Word is she gave them everything. Names, dates, documents, recordings. Recordings. Emily's always been thorough when it comes to documentation. If she recorded any of her conversations with JD, the SEC now has evidence that goes far beyond insider trading. What's JD's status? Officially, still cooperating with investigators. Unofficially, his lawyer's been making calls about a plea agreement. A plea agreement means JD's looking to trade information for a reduced sentence. The question is what information he has to trade and whether it implicates Emily further. Keep monitoring. I want to know the moment anything changes. I spend the afternoon in meetings with lawyers, accountants, and investment bankers, laying the groundwork for what will be the largest acquisition of my career. Davidson and Associates has assets worth roughly $200 million, but the SEC investigation has created an opportunity to acquire the company for a fraction of its value. By 5 p.m., I have financing in place and a formal offer ready to present to the board. Emily comes home at 6, looking like she's been through a blender. Her carefully arranged hair is falling down, her makeup is smeared, and she's clutching a tissue like a security blanket. How did it go? Horrible. They knew everything, David. Everything. She collapses into a chair. They had recordings, financial records, even photos of me and JD together. What did you tell them? The truth. All of it. My lawyer said it was the only way to avoid criminal charges. Criminal charges. The words hang in the air. Are you going to be prosecuted? They haven't decided yet. It depends on how cooperative I continue to be and whether they think I was a victim or a willing participant. Which do you think you were? She looks at me with red-rimmed eyes. I don't know anymore. I thought I was making my own choices, but now, JD knew exactly what to say, exactly how to make me feel important. Special. You weren't the first. What? I pull out Patricia's files and spread them across the coffee table. Photos, documents, and recorded conversations documenting JD's pattern of manipulation. Sarah Chen, 2019, gave him inside information about her husband's tech company, lost her job when the trades were discovered. Emily stares at the photos. Jennifer Walsh, 2020, provided client lists from her marketing firm, fired and blacklisted from the industry. More photos. Emily's face is getting paler. Lisa Rodriguez, 2021, fed him information about city planning decisions, currently under investigation for corruption. Stop. Emily's voice is barely a whisper. Amanda Thompson, 2022, shared details about her law firm's merger negotiations. Disbarred last month. Emily is crying now, ugly tears that smear her mascara and leave dark stains on her blouse. You were just the latest in a long line, Em. JD's been running this operation for years. Why are you showing me this? Because I want you to understand what you were really part of. This wasn't about love or even lust. This was about money, power, and the systematic exploitation of women who trusted the wrong person. She stares at the files spread across our coffee table, seeing her own story reflected in the experiences of JD's previous victims. The pattern is unmistakable. The same approach, the same manipulation tactics, the same devastating consequences. What happens now? Now you cooperate fully with the investigation and hope the prosecutors believe you were manipulated rather than complicit. And us? What happens to us? It's the question I've been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. Emily looks at me with desperate hope, as if our marriage might somehow survive the wreckage of her choices. I don't know, Em. I honestly don't know. My phone buzzes with a text from Patricia. Board meeting scheduled for tomorrow at 10 a.m. They're ready to hear your offer. Tomorrow. After months of planning and preparation, everything comes down to tomorrow. I have a business meeting in the morning, I tell Emily. Something I've been working on for a while. What kind of meeting? The kind that's going to change everything. She doesn't ask for details, probably because she's too emotionally exhausted to process anything beyond her immediate crisis. She goes to bed early, leaving me alone with my thoughts and a bottle of bourbon that's getting lighter by the hour. At midnight, I get a call from Marcus. JD's been arrested. Federal agents picked him up at his apartment an hour ago. Charges? Securities fraud, insider trading, conspiracy, and about 6 other felonies. No bail, flight risk. JD's arrest will be front-page news tomorrow, along with details about his systematic exploitation of women for financial gain. Emily's name will probably be mentioned, but as a victim rather than a perpetrator, assuming everything goes according to plan. I pour myself another bourbon and review my presentation for tomorrow's board meeting. The offer is generous, but not excessive, enough to make the board members rich, but not so much that they'll question my motives. By morning, I'll either own Davidson and Associates, or I'll have learned that revenge is more expensive than I'm willing to pay. Either way, Emily's world is about to change forever, and so is mine. The Davidson and Associates boardroom overlooks Michigan Avenue from the 32nd floor, all glass and steel, and the kind of expensive furniture that's designed to intimidate. 6 board members sit around a mahogany table that probably cost more than most people's cars, trying to look composed while their company burns down around them. Patricia Hartwell sits to my right, impeccably dressed and radiating the kind of confidence that comes from having more money than God. She's introduced herself as my strategic advisor, which is technically true if you define strategic advice as helping plan someone's complete destruction. Gentlemen, ladies, I begin, activating the presentation screen behind me. Thank you for agreeing to meet on such short notice. I know these are difficult times for Davidson and Associates. Difficult times. That's like calling the Titanic a minor shipping incident. The lead board member, a silver-haired man named Garrett, clears his throat. Mr. Miller, we appreciate your interest in our company, but I'm not sure this is the right time for acquisition discussions. Actually, I think it's the perfect time. I click to the first slide, Davidson and Associates stock price over the past week. The red line looks like a ski slope. Your market cap has dropped 42% since the SEC investigation became public. 3 major clients have terminated their contracts, and your top salesperson is currently cooperating with federal investigators. The room is quiet except for the hum of air conditioning and the distant sound of traffic 32 floors below. However, I continue, I believe Davidson and Associates has significant value that the market is currently underappreciating. With proper management and a clean slate, this company could be extremely profitable. I click to the next slide, my formal offer. The number is large enough to get their attention, but small enough to reflect the company's current distressed state. $60 million cash closing within 30 days. Garrett's eyebrows shoot up. That's significantly below our book value. Your book value assumes you still have a business to run. Without JD's leadership and with the SEC investigation ongoing, how many clients do you think you'll retain? How many employees will stay? The questions hang in the air like smoke. Everyone in this room knows the answers, even if they don't want to admit them. Furthermore, Patricia adds smoothly, Mr. Miller's offer includes retention bonuses for all current employees and a commitment to maintain the company's Chicago headquarters. Given the circumstances, that's quite generous. A woman at the far end of the table, I think her name is Morrison, leans forward. What about the ongoing investigation? How does that affect your offer? I'm prepared to assume all legal liabilities related to the SEC investigation, I say. My legal team has reviewed the situation extensively. The violations appear to be limited to JD's personal conduct rather than systemic company issues. That's not entirely true, but it's close enough for government work. The SEC is primarily interested in JD's insider trading ring, not the day-to-day operations of Davidson and Associates. You're asking us to sell our company at a massive discount because of one man's criminal behavior, Garrett says. I'm offering to save your company from complete collapse because of one man's criminal behavior, I correct. Without this acquisition, Davidson and Associates will be bankrupt within 6 months. Your shareholders will lose everything, your employees will lose their jobs, and 30 years of business relationships will disappear. The board members exchange glances. They know I'm right, but admitting it means acknowledging that they failed in their oversight responsibilities. "We'll need time to consider your offer," Morrison says. "Of course, but I should mention that this offer expires at close of business today." "That's not much time for due diligence," Garrett protests. "Due diligence works both ways," Patricia says. "We've already completed our review of your company's assets, liabilities, and prospects. The question is whether you're prepared to accept reality or whether you'd prefer to wait for a better offer that isn't coming." I let that sink in for a moment, then click to my final slide, a timeline showing Davidson and Associates' likely trajectory without intervention. It's not pretty. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here to take advantage of your misfortune. I'm here to offer you a way out of an impossible situation. Your company has value, your employees have talent, and your clients have needs. But without decisive action, all of that disappears." The meeting breaks for private deliberation. Patricia and I wait in the conference room while the board members huddle in Garrett's office, presumably debating whether to accept my offer or gamble on finding something better. "Think they'll take it?" Patricia asks. "They don't have a choice. They just need time to convince themselves that selling is their idea." My phone buzzes with a text from Emily. "JD arrested last night. All over the news. Are you seeing this?" I am indeed seeing this. JD's arrest is the lead story on every business news website, complete with photos of him being led away in handcuffs and detailed reporting about his insider trading operation. Emily's name appears in several articles, but as I hoped, she's described as a victim who's cooperating with investigators. The board members return after 45 minutes of deliberation. Garrett looks like he's aged a decade since this morning. "We're prepared to accept your offer," he says, "subject to standard due diligence and regulatory approval." "Excellent." I keep my voice neutral, professional. "My legal team will have the purchase agreement ready by this afternoon." We spend the next hour working through details, closing timeline, employee retention, assumption of liabilities. It's all standard acquisition boilerplate, but it feels surreal to be buying the company where my wife built her career by betraying mine. As we're wrapping up, Morrison pulls me aside. "Can I ask you something, Mr. Miller? Why Davidson and Associates? There are other real estate companies you could acquire without all this baggage." "Sometimes the best opportunities come disguised as problems," I tell her. JD's criminal behavior created a distressed situation, but the underlying business is sound. With proper leadership, this company will be worth twice what I'm paying for it. She nods, apparently satisfied with my explanation. If she suspects that my interest in Davidson and Associates has anything to do with my wife's affair, she's polite enough not to mention it. Patricia and I leave the building together, walking out into a crisp October afternoon that feels like vindication. "Congratulations," she says. "You now own the company that destroyed your marriage." Poetic justice? Something like that. We part ways on the sidewalk, Patricia heading back to her lawyer's office to finalize the Hartwell Industries sale, me walking toward my car with the satisfaction of someone who's just checkmate in a game his opponents didn't realize they were playing. My phone rings as I'm unlocking my car. Emily. "David, where are you? I need to talk to you." "Downtown. I'll be home in an hour." The reporters have been calling all day. They want statements about JD, about my relationship with him, about everything. Her voice is shaking. I don't know what to say. "Don't say anything. Refer them to your lawyer." "But they're asking about you too, about whether you knew about the affair, about how this affects your business, about how this affects my business." If only she knew. "We'll deal with it when I get home." "Okay, David, I'm sorry for all of this. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I needed to say it. I know, Em. We'll talk when I get home." I hang up and sit in my car for a moment, processing what I've just accomplished. In the space of 3 weeks, I've acquired 2 companies, exposed a criminal conspiracy, and systematically dismantled the life my wife built with her lover. The question now is what comes next. Emily will probably avoid criminal prosecution, but her career in real estate is over. No one will hire someone associated with JD's scandal, regardless of whether she was a victim or a willing participant. JD will spend the next decade in federal prison, assuming he doesn't get shanked by someone who lost money because of his schemes. And I now own a real estate company that I have no particular interest in running. But that's tomorrow's problem. Tonight, I have to go home and figure out what's left of my marriage to a woman who betrayed me for someone who was using her. The drive home takes me through downtown Chicago, past the gleaming towers where deals are made and fortunes are won and lost. The city looks the same as it did this morning, but everything feels different. Revenge, it turns out, is a lot like acquiring a company, satisfying in the moment, but ultimately just the beginning of a much larger challenge. The real work starts now. Epilogue. New management. 6 months later, I'm sitting in what used to be JD's office, reviewing quarterly reports for Davidson and Associates, now a wholly owned subsidiary of Miller Capital Management. The company's recovery has exceeded even my optimistic projections. Turns out that removing a criminal CEO and replacing him with competent management does wonders for employee morale and client confidence. Emily is living in a downtown apartment, working as a freelance marketing consultant and trying to rebuild her professional reputation. We've been through mediation, therapy, and more awkward conversations than I care to count. The divorce was finalized last month, amicable, all things considered, though Emily's settlement was significantly smaller than she'd expected. She doesn't know I own Davidson and Associates. As far as she's aware, the company was acquired by an investment group from New York. I've maintained that fiction through a series of shell companies and legal maneuvers that would make a tax attorney weep with joy. My phone buzzes with a text from Patricia Hartwell. Lunch today? I have a proposition that might interest you. Patricia has become something between a business partner and a mentor over the past 6 months. Her connections in Chicago's business community have opened doors I didn't even know existed, and her appetite for what she calls corrective capitalism matches my own. Always interested in propositions from you. Usual place, 1 p.m. Perfect. Bring your checkbook. I finish reviewing the quarterly reports and head out for lunch. The restaurant Patricia favors is the kind of place where deals are made over expensive wine, and everyone pretends the prices aren't completely insane. She's already waiting when I arrive, scrolling through what looks like a financial prospectus. David? Good to see you. I think I've found our next project. I'm listening. She slides the prospectus across the table. Midwest Development Group. Commercial real estate. Specializes in strip malls and office parks. Very profitable, very boring, and currently being run by a man who's been systematically cheating his business partners. I flip through the documents. MDG has solid fundamentals, good properties, steady cash flow, competent middle management, the kind of company that should be worth twice what it's currently trading for. What's the story? CEO named Richard Brennan. Been skimming from construction budgets, inflating maintenance costs, and pocketing the difference. His partners are starting to get suspicious, but they don't have proof yet. How much proof do we need? Patricia's smile is sharp enough to cut glass. I may have some documentation that would interest the FBI's white-collar crime unit, and Brennan's business partners might be very interested in selling their stakes to someone who can clean house. It's the same pattern we used with Davidson and Associates. Identify a company compromised by criminal behavior, acquire it at a discount, and restore it to profitability through competent management. What's the timeline? Brennan's going to be indicted within the next month. Once that happens, his partners will be desperate to distance themselves from the scandal. We could probably acquire controlling interest for 60 cents on the dollar. I study the financial projections. MDG could be worth $200 million within 5 years if managed properly. I'm in. Draft the preliminary agreements. We spend lunch working through the details: financing, due diligence, management transition. It's become our standard operating procedure, refined through experience and mutual trust. As we're finishing coffee, Patricia asks the question I've been expecting. Any word from Emily lately? She's doing well. Building a new life, new career. I think she's happier now than she was when we were married. And you? Any regrets about how things played out? It's a fair question. 6 months ago, I set out to destroy the people who betrayed me. I succeeded beyond my wildest expectations. JD is in federal prison, Emily's real estate career is over, and I've built a business empire on the ruins of their ambitions. But revenge, like any other business transaction, comes with costs that aren't always apparent up front. No regrets, I tell Patricia. But I've learned that getting what you want isn't always the same as getting what you need. Meaning that destroying someone else's life doesn't automatically fix your own. Patricia nods thoughtfully. Very philosophical, but do you feel better? I consider the question while finishing my coffee. Do I feel better? Emily's betrayal hurt in ways I'm still discovering, and the months of planning and execution were exhausting. But there's something deeply satisfying about turning the tables on people who thought they were smarter than everyone else. Yeah, I say finally. I feel better. Good. Because Brennan's going to be much more challenging than JD. He's actually competent at his job, just dishonest about how he does it. We part ways on the sidewalk outside the restaurant. Patricia heads back to her office to start the preliminary work on MDG, and I walk back to my building with the satisfaction of someone who's found his calling. My phone buzzes with a text from Marcus. Drinks tonight? I have news about JD's appeal. JD's been trying to get his sentence reduced, claiming he was the victim of prosecutorial overreach and that his relationship with Emily was consensual. His lawyer's been making noise about appealing the conviction, though most legal experts think he's wasting his time. Sure, O'Malley's at 6? See you there. The rest of the afternoon passes in meetings and phone calls. Davidson and Associates is performing well, but success requires constant attention to detail. The employees who survived JD's purge have proven to be competent and loyal, especially once they realized their new management actually cared about the company's long-term success. At 6 p.m., I walk into O'Malley's to find Marcus already nursing a beer and reading something on his phone that's making him grin. Good news about JD's appeal? Better than good. His lawyer just withdrew the appeal and JD's been transferred to medium security. Apparently, he's been a model prisoner, cooperative, remorseful, eager to make amends. Make amends how? He wants to write a book about corporate crime and the psychology of white-collar criminals. Publishers are interested. Redemption narratives sell well, especially when they come with insider details about financial fraud. The irony is almost perfect. JD's going to make money by confessing to the crimes that destroyed his victims' lives. What about Emily? Does she know? Not yet, but she'll probably be contacted for interviews. JD's story isn't complete without the perspective of the women he manipulated. I order a whiskey and consider this development. Emily's been working hard to rebuild her reputation and move past the scandal. Having JD's book drag everything back into the spotlight won't help her recovery. Any way to stop publication? Marcus shakes his head. First Amendment. As long as he doesn't libel anyone, he can tell his story however he wants. We spend the next hour catching up on business and personal news. Marcus's investigation firm is thriving. Apparently, there's no shortage of wealthy people who need to know what their spouses, business partners, and employees are really doing. By the way, he says as we're settling the tab, I heard through the grapevine that you might be interested in Midwest Development Group. Where did you hear that? I have my sources. Word is that Richard Brennan's about to have some very public problems. I don't confirm or deny anything, but Marcus grins anyway. He knows me well enough to read between the lines. Just remember, revenge is a dish best served cold, but it can give you indigestion if you're not careful. Meaning? Meaning that some people might start to wonder why companies with criminal CEOs keep getting acquired by Miller Capital Management. Pattern recognition is a thing. It's a fair point. 2 acquisitions could be coincidence. 3 starts to look like a strategy. I'll keep that in mind. The drive home takes me through the neighborhoods where Emily and I used to walk on Sunday mornings, past restaurants where we celebrated anniversaries and promotions, through the geography of a marriage that no longer exists. I don't miss Emily exactly. The woman I married disappeared somewhere in those 8 months of lies and betrayal. But I miss the idea of her, the possibility of growing old with someone who understood and supported my ambitions. Maybe that was always an illusion. Maybe Emily was always the person she revealed herself to be, and I was just too busy building my business empire to notice. Or maybe people change, and the woman who promised to love and honor me simply decided those promises were less important than her own desires. Either way, it doesn't matter now. Emily's building a new life, I'm building a new business empire, and JD's building a literary career from his prison cell. Everyone gets what they deserve, more or less. My phone buzzes with one final text of the day from a number I don't recognize. Mr. Miller, this is Sarah Chen. Patricia Hartwell suggested I contact you about a business opportunity. Would you be available for lunch next week? Sarah Chen, one of JD's previous victims, the woman whose husband's tech company was compromised by insider trading. Patricia must have introduced us as part of her expanding network of what she calls corrective capitalists. I text back, always interested in new opportunities? Wednesday at 1 p.m.? Perfect. I think you'll find what I have to say very interesting. I pull into my driveway and sit in the car for a moment, looking at the house Emily and I shared for 12 years. It's too big for one person, too quiet, too full of memories that feel like artifacts from someone else's life. Tomorrow, I'll start researching whatever opportunity Sarah Chen wants to discuss. Next week, I'll begin the process of acquiring Midwest Development Group. Next month, I'll probably find another company compromised by criminal leadership and ripe for acquisition. It's become my specialty, finding value in other people's disasters, building success on the ruins of their failures. Some might call it opportunistic. I prefer to think of it as justice with a profit motive. My phone rings one last time. Emily. Hi, David. I hope I'm not bothering you. Not at all. What's up? I wanted to thank you for how you handled everything, for not making the divorce more difficult than it had to be. I know I don't deserve your kindness after what I did. You're welcome, Em. How are you doing? Better. Different, but better. I'm learning to live with the consequences of my choices. She pauses. I heard JD's writing a book. Yeah, Marcus mentioned that. His lawyer contacted me about participating, interviews, maybe a chapter from my perspective. Are you going to do it? I don't know. Part of me wants to tell my side of the story, but part of me just wants to move on. What does your therapist say? She says I should do whatever feels right for my recovery, not what other people expect from me. It's good advice. Emily spent too much of her life trying to meet other people's expectations, mine, JD's, her colleagues. Maybe it's time for her to figure out what she actually wants. For what it's worth, I think you should tell your story. Not for JD's book, but for yourself. Own your choices, own your mistakes, and own your recovery. Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. We talk for a few more minutes about practical things. Insurance, tax documents, the logistics of completely separating 2 lives that were intertwined for more than a decade. When we hang up, I feel something I haven't experienced in months. Peace. Not happiness exactly, but the absence of the anger that's been driving me since I discovered Emily's betrayal. Maybe Marcus is right about revenge and indigestion. Maybe it's time to focus on building something positive instead of tearing down the people who wronged me. Or maybe I'm just getting better at choosing my targets. I unlock my front door and step into the quiet house, already thinking about tomorrow's challenges and opportunities. Somewhere in Chicago, Richard Brennan is probably having dinner with his family, unaware that his world is about to collapse. Somewhere else, Sarah Chen is planning a conversation that might change both our lives. And somewhere in a federal prison, JD is writing his redemption story, convinced that he can profit from the wreckage he created. The game continues, with new players and higher stakes. But the rules remain the same. Information is power, trust is a liability, and everyone gets exactly what they deserve. I pour myself a bourbon and settle into my home office, surrounded by the quarterly reports and acquisition documents that have become my life. Outside, Chicago glitters in the darkness, full of opportunities and threats, and people making choices they'll spend years trying to understand. Tomorrow, I'll start planning my next move. Tonight, I'll enjoy the satisfaction of a game well played and a victory thoroughly earned. After all, revenge isn't just about destroying your enemies. Sometimes, it's about building something better from the ashes of their failures.